Moments before stepping away from public life, Egypt's most famous archaeologist, Dr. Zahi Hawass, said something no one expected. For decades, he denied the existence of hidden chambers beneath the Great Sphinx. Now, he's admitting there's more below the surface than he ever revealed. According to Hawass, recent scans uncovered something sealed in the bedrock, and he warns the truth about what lies there could rewrite everything we know about ancient Egypt.
The man behind the mystery. His name is Zahi Hawass, Egypt's most famous archaeologist and the man who has spent a lifetime standing guard over the sands of Giza. Born in 1947 in the quiet town of Damietta, deep in the Nile Delta, Hawass came from humble beginnings, but even as a young man he felt the pull of Egypt's ancient past and the need to uncover its buried voices. Through relentless work and unshakable pride, he rose to become Egypt's chief of antiquities, the ultimate authority over every tomb, temple, and artifact in the country. With his wide-brimmed hat and larger-than-life presence, Hawass wasn't just an archaeologist. He was Egypt's storyteller, its defender, and sometimes its gatekeeper. He fought to keep Egypt's treasures in Egyptian hands and refused to let foreign powers shape the story of his ancestors. To some, he was a hero. To others, a man guarding history too tightly. At the center of his world stood the Great Sphinx, carved from a single ridge of limestone, 240 feet long, 66 feet high, gazing forever toward the rising sun. Most scholars agree it was built during the reign of Pharaoh Khafra, roughly 2,500 years before Christ. Yet, unlike the pyramids beside it, the Sphinx carries no inscription, no name of a builder, no clue to its true purpose. The first written reference appears more than 1,000 years later. Pharaoh Thutmose IV claimed the Sphinx spoke to him in a dream and promised him the throne if he cleared away the sand that buried it. Even then, the monument was already ancient and mysterious. But time left its own signature upon the Sphinx. Deep vertical scars etched into its flanks revealed something no one expected: erosion by water, not by wind. If rain had carved those grooves, then the Sphinx must have stood during an age when Egypt's climate was lush and wet, more than 5,000 years before, long before the pharaohs. Could it be older than the pyramids? Could it belong to a forgotten people who lived before written history itself? For generations, legends have whispered of tunnels and secret halls beneath the Sphinx, vaults filled with scrolls, treasures, and knowledge from a lost civilization. For decades, Hawass dismissed these tales as fantasy, but as technology evolved, as machines began to peer beneath the bedrock, the impossible started to look disturbingly plausible. And for the first time in his career, Egypt's greatest skeptic began to wonder, what if the myths were true? This was no longer only about science, it was about legacy and the possibility that the truth beneath the Sphinx could rewrite everything we know about civilization itself. Then came the moment that changed everything. Hawass revealed that new evidence had emerged, evidence he could no longer deny. Ground-penetrating radar, the same technology used to map what the human eye cannot see, had uncovered strange geometric shapes beneath the Sphinx, symmetrical voids, sharp edges, and regular patterns that did not belong to nature. He kept this discovery quiet for years, but the data grew stronger, clearer, and impossible to ignore. Beneath the Sphinx's northern paw, the scans showed large rectangular cavities, spaces that looked less like cracks and more like rooms. In the early 1990s, the first radar scans were carried out to study the monument's stability. At first, only a few scientists took notice, but when reports of the mysterious voids leaked, the world exploded with speculation. Newspapers shouted that the legendary Hall of Records had been found. Followers of the American mystic Edgar Cayce claimed his prophecy was fulfilled, that the ancient wisdom beneath the Sphinx would be uncovered before the end of the 20th century. Television crews and journalists flooded Giza. Cameras rolled day and night as the world demanded answers. Hawass stepped forward, calm but firm, reminding everyone that radar could be deceiving, that strange shapes beneath the earth did not always mean ancient chambers. Yet privately, his curiosity consumed him. He wanted to know the truth. In 1997, under the cover of secrecy, Hawass authorized a quiet investigation near the Sphinx. Working with American scientists, the team used advanced equipment to probe deeper than ever before. What they found was astonishing. At a depth of roughly 25 feet, the instruments detected large pockets of empty space directly beneath the northern paw. The outlines were smooth and regular, as though carved by human hands. One reading even hinted at a possible doorway. Before the findings could be made public, everything stopped. The Egyptian government, alarmed by the international attention and wary of foreign involvement, ordered the project to shut down immediately. Permits were revoked. The shafts that had been dug were filled in with sand. All documentation was sealed away. The desert reclaimed its secret once more. Hawass, loyal to his position and his country, obeyed, but inside he was conflicted. He had spent his entire life searching for the truth, yet now he was helping to hide it. The discovery had become more than science. It had become a matter of national pride, politics, and power. For Zahi Hawass, the mystery beneath the Sphinx was no longer just about archaeology. It was about who controls history itself. For some, it was about protecting Egypt's legacy from outsiders. For others, it was about revealing evidence that could rewrite the origins of human civilization. If the Sphinx truly concealed the remnants of a forgotten world older than the pyramids, older even than dynastic Egypt, then the story of humanity would have to be rewritten from the ground up. And so, for nearly 30 years, Hawass kept his silence. The sands above the Sphinx remained still, but the truth beneath them refused to sleep. Because secrets, no matter how deeply buried, always find their way back to the surface.
In the early 1990s, a quiet team of researchers from Waseda University in Japan set foot on the Giza Plateau, led by Dr. Sakuji Yoshimura. Their mission seemed purely scientific, to study the ground beneath the Sphinx using electromagnetic sensors and to measure for underground water or weak spots that might threaten the monument. But as the machines hummed and the readings poured in, the desert began to reveal its secrets. The data showed strange anomalies beneath the Sphinx, shapes that were not random or natural. They were symmetrical, geometric, and deliberate. The most striking void appeared directly beneath the Sphinx's northern paw. More subtle patterns emerged between the paws, near the Dreamstale and along a straight line stretching from the Sphinx's tail toward nearby temple ruins. When the findings were published in Japanese journals, they received little attention in the West, but the details were astonishing. The readings showed spaces large enough to be chambers carved rather than cracked beneath the limestone body. That quiet discovery in 1991 became the cornerstone of every investigation that followed. Years later, between 2009 and 2018, Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities conducted its own secret surveys using newer ground-penetrating radar and seismic reflection technology. These studies were meant only for conservation, to protect the Sphinx from damage, yet when fragments of the data leaked, they confirmed what the Japanese team had seen decades earlier. Two anomalies stood out. The first, beneath the northern paw, measured roughly 9 meters long, 12 meters wide, and 3 meters deep, buried 7 to 8 meters below the surface. Its edges were too sharp and its form too regular to be natural. The second anomaly ran along the Sphinx's central axis, stretching from its back toward the head, a narrow corridor or passageway, as if connecting hidden spaces within. Then in 2023, the mystery deepened once more as part of a new initiative to create three-dimensional models of Egypt's monuments for virtual tourism. The Ministry of Tourism authorized a full digital scan of the Sphinx. Using artificial intelligence combined with computed tomography, the same type of imaging used in hospitals, every layer of the monument was mapped in stunning detail. What the scans revealed would change everything. Beneath the northern section of the Sphinx lay a massive hollow space, perfectly rectangular, measuring roughly 9 by 12 meters, with clear signs of possible openings or connecting shafts. For the first time, the evidence was not rumor or speculation. It was measurable, it was real. Core samples taken during conservation projects around the Sphinx added another puzzle. Some contained traces of granite dust, a stone not native to Giza's limestone terrain. Granite had to be brought from Aswan, hundreds of miles to the south, and was reserved for the most sacred structures. Its presence suggested deliberate building activity beneath the Sphinx, construction rather than coincidence. Ancient texts hinted at this long before modern science could prove it. The so-called inventory stela found near Giza speaks of a temple of Isis standing beside the Sphinx long before Pharaoh Khufu's time, implying the monument itself predated the 4th dynasty. Though dismissed by mainstream scholars as legend, even the ancient Egyptians seemed to regard the Sphinx as a relic from a forgotten age. For thousands of years, poets, priests, and explorers told of tunnels, sealed doors, and hidden chambers below the Sphinx, vaults of knowledge, perhaps even of humanity's earliest history. Now, the data suggested they might have been right all along. By 2024, Egypt's most famous archaeologist, Dr. Zahi Hawass, once the loudest skeptic, began to change his tone. In interviews, he cautiously acknowledged that recent surveys had indeed detected something beneath the monument. He refused to speculate further, saying only that Egypt was not yet ready for what might be found. The question was no longer whether something lay beneath, it was what and why it had been hidden for so long.